that though.
All right. Now you've seen this thing, what we got here with our electronic alignment equipment has got to be able to shoot across the back and down the side. You know, when you get in the way of these, you can't see. There are different types. There's some of the other ones that have cameras up there on this big T-bar over the machine, and they've got paddles that reflect and this kind of stuff. This particular one is a sort of a typical way it shoots, and you know, on the one that we got over there, if you've got a car that's sitting low enough where it can't see under the car, you basically block the camera from here to here, and then it'll ask you if you want to lower the heads, you know, 75 millimeters or 45 millimeters so you can see under the car. Also remember, if you're putting these things, these are made for the pretty big wheels on this thing, so if you're working on a car that's got really small wheels, mount the slide bar sideways, you know, the mounting bar, so that you're not being, you know, fouled up on the bottom, because it doesn't know if it's sideways or what. It just knows that, you know, and it needs to be able to turn back and forth without interference on the turn plates. And so this one here, you might notice the way that this particular Hunter one is designed, it's always shooting really low as it can shoot pretty much on that one, the way it's set. Inclinometers measure canister, camber, and steering axis inclination. Can you draw a picture of that? Steering axis inclination? Can you describe what it is?
Just the axis.
Yeah, you're going to draw a line through the ball joints seen from the front of the car and what that angle is, right? Away from true vertical.
Are we doing that on?
You doing it in math or what?
No, that too.
Oh, that could, yeah, there you go. Modern alignment equipment. You got a computer in there, and the one that I got over at the other campus over in Geneva is basically a lot different from this one, but it works the same way. And it's got Bluetooth communication between the unit and the vehicle. And you got these little the little mounts that you got to put on there. You know, you don't even have the heads on the mounts. The heads are actually overcharging on the machine, and they don't weigh hardly anything. And you put these aluminum grippers, what do you call them, on the wheel, tighten them up, and then you take this little head off the machine, unplug it, just slide it on there. It's just light as a feather. It's real easy to handle. And you can actually, you might not know this, but you can actually get alignment angles on a vehicle sitting over here in the shop. Like if you had one sitting over here, you know, as long as it was within radio range of that, if you put those things on there sitting on the floor, you can basically, you know, get alignment angles with one sitting on the floor. It's a little easier to get turn plates under the front wheel. Now, you doing an alignment that way, it'd be a drag. But I know of I got an oil change place where while the oil changes are being done, he's got his guy checking alignment angles on the car while the oil change, and he prints it out and he hands them their alignment angles so they can go get that seen about if they got a problem, which is pretty cool. Anyway, you got 4-wheel sensors with cameras. Electronic sensors use it, some of them use infrared light beams, and this is old words and all, so there's a lot of new stuff coming out. This right here holds the steering wheel straight. If you fool around with the toe and you don't put the steering wheel where it's straight, or if it's bound up a little when you're setting your toe, you're going to be going down the road on your test drive with a steering wheel like this. Even if everything else is fine and the car is driving straight down the road and the tires ain't going to wear or nothing like that, and it's not pulling or nothing, if the steering wheel's crooked, is Mama going to be happy?
That's how the Ultima was when we first fixed it. The steering wheel was crooked.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. You know, but anyway, you got to make sure that when you put the steering wheel straight before you set your toe, it'll be straight when you're driving down the road.
So you're saying
Now, if you're, yeah.
It was
it's
turned.
turned, but the
like
wheel's
this, like-
straight, but
Yeah.
hard like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like that.
Did y'all go back and fix that?
Yeah, when we did the alignment, we fixed it.
Okay. Oh, you mean when you first drove it after you
Yeah,
put it back
yeah.
together? Yeah. Okay. All right. The wheels sit on these turn plates that are secured with these removable pins. Always remember to put your removable pins back when you're through with your alignment. You know, when we pull the car up on there, we stop just short of the turn plates. Leave the car in neutral, grab the wheel, roll the car over the turn plate, you know, and then it's easier to pull the pins that way. If you drive the car onto the turn plate and hit the brakes, you know, you bind everything up and all this kind of stuff, you know. Well, turn plates have got bearings under them, turn plates, so that whenever you're turning your wheel back and forth, it's easy to do. And you can also get angle measurements on, by looking at the turn plates. It's got them degree marks, you know, around here, so you can see how far you're turning it. All right. Turn off your program ride control before you're raising the vehicle with the air, unless it's on a drive-on lift. If it's on a drive-on lift, it doesn't matter. But if you're raising it off the wheels, you're raising it off the wheels and you don't have that suspension off, what happens? You remember I told you this before? Let's say that you got one that's got air suspension on it, and it drives into the shop and everything's just fine. You raise it up without turning off the air suspension,
Didn't it let all the air out of it?
it lets all the air out of the bags, and then because it thinks the car's riding too high, and then when you set it down, it squats down on the lift, and everybody laughs at you. Oh, oh, oh. You know, I know because I've been laughed at. And I had that happen to me. And also, it's really kind of dicey too. If you're just putting a jack under it and you're jacking it up, if you're changing a tire beside the road for somebody and it's on a car with air suspension, you know, like if it's an Expedition or some Explorers, or if it's the one with the, you know, if it's a Lincoln or a Crown Victoria or something, and you're fooling around changing a tire and you got turned off the air suspension, if it shifts a little bit because it's letting air out of the bags, can you see how that might cause a problem? Always think about that. Don't ever neglect. All right. Vehicle pre-check. Vehicle stability, direct result of vehicle systems such as suspension, wheels, steering, bearings, and tires operating together. Everything's got to be smooth and by the numbers. So you don't want anything that's wobbling over here that you didn't happen to notice, and then it's causing you to work really hard. All right. So, you're never going to be able to compensate. Oh, by the way, the first thing you do before you start an alignment after you get it on the lift is what?
Check your tire.
Check your tire pressure. Good answer. All right. Ensure all the steering and suspension components are in acceptable working condition, like those will be when you get through with the F-150 over there. Depending on the steps that were followed to verify the customer's concern, did you drive it and see how it felt? If they say my car's pulling to the right or my car's pulling to the left, the car wanders, or the car's got, you know, is whatever. If you need to be following the procedure of verifying that complaint, so when you get through, you can drive it again. Also, you need to have a really good look at all the tires and make sure that one of them's not bigger than the rest of them, or that one of them's not worn out more than the rest of them, or one of them's not, you know, got a bubble on it or something like that. Always refer to the appropriate workshop manual for pre-checks for vehicle to be diagnosed. So if you ever haven't driven a car that had a bubble on the tire or had a separating belt, what do you feel like?
Doesn't it kind of shake or something like that?
What happens if you're driving through the parking lot and it'll go boom, boom, boom. Have you felt that before? It's like a little, it's like a little bump, you know, it feels like the car. And then you raise the car off the lift and spin the tire through and you'll see the tread go. pretty easy to spot, really. All right, on the ground pre-check. You got cracked treads, wear on one side, rapid center wear, rapid shoulder wear, feathered edge, bald spots, scalloped wear. Right. You know that guy in the commercial I showed you the other day? He says, we went to the moon, talking about, you know, the United States. You know what we got? Bored. We took a car up there, left the keys in it. You know why? Because we're the only ones going back.
How does the tire get bald spots on it like that? Like,
That's typically whenever it's bouncing. You know, if it's out of balance bad enough to where it's bouncing up and down, going down the road, every time it bounces up, it's skinning a little rubber off. Following pre-check should be done with the vehicle on the ground. Check all 4 tires for correct air pressure, uniform wear patterns, correct size and profile, appearance of abnormal wear patterns. Not really this right here, this and that, you know, would be, if they're all worn about the same, you know, that's a good thing, or if they're worn straight across there. Check it for optional suspension equipment such as heavy duty handling or trailer tow suspension. You know, that lady from up front had her car in here and she had a brand new set of Michelin tires put on her car probably a year ago, and she hadn't got maybe 12,000 miles on them, and they're worn just as nice and smooth. They're not worn out, you know, off to one edge, and they were worn out. And I don't know why. I mean, I'm not blaming it on Michelin, but I couldn't see an alignment issue either, or any overinflation or anything. Look for sheet metal repair that would indicate it's been in an accident, or one of those stickers that says it's a salvage vehicle that's rebuilt. Because we used to have cars that would go through our body shop when I was working at the Ford place over there, back before they got a Continental frame straightener. And they would bring the car around there for an alignment, and the front end mechanic would say, hey, this thing won't line up. And they say, well, why won't it? They wanted him to tell them what to do, they needed to do to make it line up, you know. And they got a little bit about that. All right, check action of shock absorbers by bouncing the rear of the vehicle to see if the movement is properly dampened. All right, let me see if I can show you this little piece of video here. See if it'll play. See that? All right, go ahead. Look at this. Watch what you see. That sleeve wasn't tightened up enough. You guys aren't paying attention. That sleeve wasn't tightened up enough. That could come on. Watch this here.
Started bouncing. It just keeps on bouncing, don't it? Yay! All right then.
That's shocks. That's what that is. All right. All right. All right. Put it on the lift. Disable the air suspension if you're driving it on the lift. The air suspension is not a big deal if it's a drive on lift, unless you're going to raise the car up with those scissor jacks that the lift has with it. If it's got ramps, drive it over the rack. And the alignment rack uses stand to raise the vehicle with a hoist. Right? Center it on the alignment rack. It's got to be centered. You remember what we were doing yesterday? It wasn't centered on the alignment lift, and we were having some issues. You know, the wrench was hitting the, see what I'm saying? So it needs to be centered up. And remember how I broke that aggravating nut loose? I found a 7/8 line wrench and put some valve grinding compound and went in there and broke it loose. We got that made it happen. Got to be centered to achieve your proper alignment readings. Each wheel on the vehicle has got to be directly over the center of the slip plates and turning angle gauges. So right in the middle of those things. That's one of the reasons before when you push it up right before you get to those plates, you can also move the plates over so that they're lined up with the center of the wheels when you roll the car forward. So remember that. If the wheels aren't in the middle, they won't effectively, turn to perform caster clean. All right, raise it off the floor. Now grasp the upper and lower and 6 o'clock surface of the tire. You got to have the tire off the ground to do this. And you're going to grab the tire like this and like that. Now we've done this here before, haven't we? You grab it before and it's going to clunk, 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 like that. You want to see where that clunk clunk is. Is it a bearing? Is it a ball joint? Turn it this way. Is it a tie rod end? Is it an inner tie rod end or an outer tie rod end? Because it can be either one. Inner tie rod end on a rack and pinion steering's up inside that boot. And that's that rod. You'll be selling those at the parts store with your $400 worth of stuff. All right, grasp the side, 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Take them top to bottom. Wheel bearings and other things. Loose suspension, steering nuts and bolts. See if the cotter keys are there. See if anything else is loose. See if anybody's been working on it and do it right. See if something's bent. Check the steering gear mounts and rod connections for looseness. Whenever you move it, is the steering gear moving back and forth? Or is it jiggling around? Worn or broken suspension spring, leaking or damaged shock absorbers. Steering shaft U-joints. I had a steering shaft on a Altima one time. That one on, these little U-joints, like the little cross U-joints, whatever they call those. Anyway, I always forget the name of them. But anyway, when you turn the wheel, it's just like a regular U-joint on a car. It would hard and easy and hard and easy and hard and easy, drive you crazy. I got that shaft over there somewhere laying on that thing, I believe. And it flops easy one way. There it is, up there behind you, I think. Right up there, up, 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 down, 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 down. Second shelf in the middle, right there. Grab that. Grab that and feel of it. Feel of it both ways. Other way. Yeah. That may not be the one I was thinking about. That is one, but it may not be the one I was thinking about. We got another one over there. Anyway, it ought to feel more or less like that. If one side is stiff and the other side's not, you'll feel it when you're driving. Check the boots for rips, cuts, or leaks, and for dragging brakes. Ride height, suspension measurement from unsprung components to sprung components. Hey, let me ask you this. What's an unsprung component?
That's what the spring is.
Something that's not sitting on the spring, which would be what? The car is sitting on springs, right? Okay, what's beneath the spring? The spindle, the tire, everything that's on the ground that's not sitting on a spring is unsprung. Got that? If it's sitting on a spring, and when you're bouncing the car, the part of the car that's moving like this is sprung weight, and the part that's below the spring that's not moving when you're bouncing the car is unsprung weight. Now don't confuse ride height and trim height. Trim height is how level the body looks when it's measured from the vehicle body to the ground. And alignment specs are all set with the vehicle at predetermined ride height. If it's not at the specified ride height, the alignment angles will be incorrect. You might even notice on this front-end machine we got over here, the first thing it does is it takes you to a place where it shows you how to measure and what the dimensions are supposed to be at various places. It'll show you pictures. From here to here should be this much between this and this. You've seen that? On the pictures, got pictures on the screen showing you how to measure it from here to here for you're looking at for your ride height. You've seen that. Dakota usually sees stuff other people miss. Refer to the illustrations on the alignment machine to determine which points to measure on the vehicle. What are the specs? What are the allowable tolerances? Overall side to side. In other words, is it an inch higher on this side than it is on the other side? That's important too, right? Take your ride height measurements and compare to the spec. If the ride height's incorrect, follow the recommendations to fix that. You know, like if you get torsion bars, it's pretty easy, isn't it? You turn those torsion bars. All right, make sure the sensors are on the proper wheels. Don't drop the sensors, use the rubber bungee straps. Right? All right, perform run-out compensation procedure for each head. Allows the computer to determine the total amount of run-out at the wheel hub, sensor located on the laminate head. If you don't do that, you may have issues. Now, when the guy that sold us this machine says if they're aluminum wheels, you don't typically need to worry about that if it's late model car, but you don't know if the wheel's bent or not. There should be still issues, you know, so it's really, it's when you go 45 degrees and 45 degrees, and you know what I'm saying? 45 degrees, level it. Tell it you're going to do the next step, 45 degrees forward, level it, is already measured the run-out compensation on all four wheels. And some of them have rear slip plates. Ours have got rear slip plates. You can pull in things. If you're doing adjustments on the rear wheels, it's nice if the rear slip plates can let the wheels move freely, so you're not having to drag the tires on the metal whenever you're sitting, you know, bounce it. Bounce it. Have you ever seen a little picture, a little video on our machine where it shows you putting their hands on the hood? And they bounce it, and you're just letting all the suspension go right where it wants to be. You know what I mean? And do something for me. Reach over there and take OJ's hat off his head and put it back on. Take his hat off his head and put it back on. All right, now put it back on his head. All right. So what do you think about that? When somebody takes your hat off your head and puts it back on, what do?
Fix it.
You gotta fix it. If somebody takes my glasses off my face and puts it back on, I'm gonna fix them. So it's gotta be like somebody I want it to be. Carefully set this as pictured by Johnson. Position a lock mechanism on the brake pedal. To ensure the wheels don't move while taking steering axis and included angle measurements, apply the brake pedal depressor inside the passenger compartment. I asked the guy that used to service one of our machines over here, you know, do you need to lock the brakes or do you not need to lock the brakes? He goes, well, you don't lock the brakes unless you don't get readings you like, and then lock the brakes or something. He didn't really know. It's unusual. Be sure the caster swing's executed from the steering wheel, not from a front wheel. A lot of guys just grab the front wheels and turn them to do their caster swing. It's a whole lot better, you know, to get in the car and, you know, and do it that way, or reach in the window without blocking the beam. If measurements within specs, don't bother to adjust it. The only time you ought to make adjustments is when the measurements out of specs or side-to-side difference is great enough to cause a pull or a wear pattern. Did you hear what that said? You might even have some that are in the red. You know, if it's not wearing the tires and it's not pulling, it's not worth fooling with. If it's wearing the tires or pulling, you need to be worried about it. But you may have caster in the red. See what I'm saying? And you may have camber a little bit, you know, over like we were talking about the other day. You know, it could be, yeah, exactly. But if the tires are wearing good, you know, but whatever happens, you're supposed to start on the back wheel and go to the front. Anyhow, on most alignment system, caster and toe readings are live, meaning, I'm sorry, camber, not caster, meaning their actual current measurements and the changes are displayed as they're being made. Caster is not like that. Caster readings, it'll sort of give you an idea, but every time you adjust caster, you got to go back and redo a caster sweep to make sure that you got it right. Caster and camber should always be adjusted first and toe last. Caster, camber, and toe, can you remember that? Caster, camber, and toe, caster, camber, and toe, right? That's because adjusted toe does not change caster or camber, but adjusting caster and camber will change toe. If you set toe first, you do an extra work. Since it's front alignment set to reference from the rear thrust line, all rear adjustments should be completed before adjusting the front. Sometimes it gets really irritating because you're over here, you adjust that one, the toe on that one side, and it's just like it ought to be. And then you go to the other side and you adjust it and it moves the other one. So you got to go back and forth, you know, and all that. And Kayla's got to get in on that. All right. Some of them have a rear camber and toe typical, and there's your little, you know, this is really common on a lot of cars, they'll have that. And I will tell you this, on some of the, and I've got a picture in a minute, some of the cars will have these little adjusters like that. Some of them, if this right here won't do the job, or if there's not one, like on some of the Honda Accords, you can buy an adjustable link where you can adjust camber, and it acts like a turnbuckle and all that. I put some on a Dodge Neon, and boy, man, you can do some heavy-duty adjustments with those. It's easy to do, too. But there's your camber, and there's your toe. See, the one that's on the front is going to be doing that. Even on rear-wheel drive vehicles, rear alignment and thrust angle should be checked for sure. Even if you've got a vehicle that's got a solid axle on the rear end, you need to make sure. You ever see elongated holes? You see this morning somewhere? You see that this morning? On that truck y'all are working on, it's got them like that. When you guys are getting ready to take these out of here, if you'll spray some paint on here or something so you'll know right where they go back, put them right back there, you're in better shape. Some of these will have these little like the Bronco, have these little egg-shaped bushings that you gotta put in there. Some of them have got eccentrics. I love the ones that's got the eccentrics on the lower control arm. Handy as a shirt pocket. Easy to get to, you're right there, you know. The ones I like the least are the ones with the stupid shims on them. I've never really liked those, but people did them for years. Now, some replacement struts have egg-shaped holes right here that allow camber adjustment. A lot of them don't. We had a Mustang that we had in here that we absolutely could not adjust camber on before we took that strut off and we egg-shaped that hole. A heck of a lot. You remember that gray one? And it was wearing tires out really bad. And we egg-shaped the daggone hole, and we managed to get it so that it looked like it was supposed to be. And replace your original bolts with your special camber correction bolts. Some adjustment may be possible with OE bolts, but they have them egg-shaped bolts that you can put in there so you can turn that around and move it, but it doesn't move a whole lot, you know. Now, some vehicles with rear camber adjustment use eccentrics, and some like Hondas require the purchase of special turnbuckle links. There's all kinds of stuff that people have, these manufacturers have come up with to adjust stuff on a vehicle that doesn't have one. Not only your Tauruses and stuff, you actually have to drill out the rivets in the top of the strut tower to set camber and caster, which is a bunch of aggravation. All right, review of camber. There's your vertical line, you know, that's negative, that's positive, right? Positive is leaning out from the inside, negative is leaning in. See that? Here's your steering, here's your ball joint. All right, a review on caster. This is, make sure you get this. All right, positive, neutral, and negative. Now this is the front of the car, okay? Positive caster, neutral, negative caster. The positive caster is what helps it return to the center after you turn. See what I mean? All right, eccentric cams can be used to do caster and camber. Move the front and rear of the control arm inward or outward. Equally will adjust camber only. If you move either the front or the rear by itself, that changes caster because it moves the relationship of the upper ball joint to the lower one. And you know, these with the struts on some cars have to have this special tool to drill out these stupid spot welds and all that kind of stuff. You gotta center punch them, loosen the 3 nuts, and use an appropriate spot weld drill kit. Don't cut deeper than necessary to remove the alignment plate in order to prevent damage. Now, some of them are shims. You know, that's the shims right here. Whenever you take those shims and you take a shim out there. Now, if you take a shim out there, or think about how this is, there's a frame, that's going to move this back, isn't it? Right? If you add shims or take shims out there, it's going to be, you got to think about which way you want to go with that upper ball joint, right? Some F-Series trucks use a service adjuster to change caster and camber. And they have different degrees, you see. They'll be stamped on it. The one they put in there at the factory is actually so it can't be moved. It'll have a little, dog on it. Start the engine, center the steering wheel to adjust tow, make sure it's where it wants to be. Don't want to be bound up, right? Turn it off, hold the steering wheel in a straightforward position, attach the steering wheel over, check the tow settings on the alignment rack, hold the tie rod in while loosening the nuts, clean to lubricate the steering linkage and tie rod end threads. Rotate, sometimes you got so much dirt in there, you got to brush it off of there, it's aggravating. Tighten the nuts, recheck the tow setting. And, start the engine, center the steering wheel, blah, blah, same thing. It's all the same words, but you can see what we're doing here. And a lot of times you have wrench flats on that little tie rod. Sometimes you may need to squeeze that clamp and break that loose where it'll turn without twisting that boot up. And make sure the steering wheel is straight when you're driving it afterward. Nobody likes it if their steering wheel is not straight. They will bring it back. That's why it's important to test drive it. And that's pretty much all of it. There will be a pop test on this. You gonna remember it? You're not gonna forget all that stuff, huh?
Right.
She learned how to nod from Brandon because he does the same thing. Just one nod, one nod.
Tell me we're bad influence on us.
Yeah.
Came here to start.
The ultimate one was like, could have